Welcome back to Top 10 Retro Gaming. Today we're going to count down the top 10 Sega Dreamcast games of all time. But hey, first, if you enjoy the content here, we're a new YouTube channel. We'd love it if you'd subscribe to the channel and turn on those bell notifications. Alright, let's get to the list. Kicking off at number 10, Jet Set Radio. Jet Set Radio, also known as Jet Grind Radio in North America, is an action video game developed by Smilebit, a division of Sega for the Dreamcast console. It was first released in Japan on June 29, 2000, followed by North America and European releases in October and November 2000. Jet Set Radio is known for its innovative gameplay, cel-shaded graphics, an eclectic soundtrack. Set in a fictional city called Tokyo 2, the game follows a group of inline skaters called the GGs as they battle rival gangs to control turf by tagging graffiti on various landmarks throughout the city. The gameplay combines elements of action, exploration, platforming, all while players skate through the urban environment while avoiding the police and rival gangs. Jet Set Radio was one of the first games to use cel-shaded graphics, which give a distinctive, cartoon-like appearance. This visual style became influential in the gaming industry, inspiring a number of other games to adopt a similar aesthetic. Jet Set Radio received critical acclaim upon its release, praised for its unique art style, soundtrack, and innovative gameplay. Despite its positive reception, the game was not a huge commercial success, selling modestly compared to other Dreamcast titles on our list today. However, it has since gained a cult following and is considered a classic of the Dreamcast era. A sequel, Jet Set Radio Future, was released for the Xbox in 2002. The sequel expanded on the original game's mechanics and art style while introducing new characters and locations. Despite the positive reception for the sequel, no further entries in the series have been released at the time of this recording. Here's to hoping. Number 9. Marvel vs. Capcom. Clash of Superheroes is a crossover fighting game developed and published by Capcom. It's the third installment in the Marvel vs. Capcom series and was originally released for the arcades in 1999. The game features characters from both the Marvel Comics and Capcom's video game franchises, creating a unique and diverse roster of fighters for players to choose from. The Dreamcast version of Marvel vs. Capcom was released in 1999 following the success of the arcade version. This port of the game maintained the core gameplay mechanics and graphics from the arcade version while adding new features and options. The Dreamcast's powerful hardware allowed for smooth gameplay and impressive 2D visuals, which made the game a popular title on the console. In Marvel vs. Capcom, players choose two characters to form a tag team and battle against opponents. The game's mechanics include the ability to swap between characters during a match and call in the off-screen character to perform an assist move. The game also features the variable cross mechanic, which allows both characters to be on screen at the same time for a limited period. Marvel vs. Capcom was well received by critics and players alike, who praised its fast-paced gameplay, colorful graphics, and a unique roster of characters. The game's popularity on the Dreamcast helped to establish the series as a staple of fighting games to come. It was followed by several sequels and spin-offs, including Marvel vs. Capcom 2: New Age of Heroes, which was also released on the Dreamcast in 2000. In summary, Marvel vs. Capcom: Clash of Superheroes for the Dreamcast was an important title in the history of the series, as it introduced the franchise to a wider audience and helped to solidify its reputation as a premium fighting game series. The game's legacy continues to be celebrated today, with the series remaining popular among fighting game enthusiasts. Number 8. Quake 3 Arena. Quake 3 Arena is a first-person shooting game developed by id Software, was originally released for Microsoft Windows, Linux, and Macintosh in December 1999. The game is known for its fast-paced action, high-quality graphics, and multiplayer focus. Quake 3 Arena for Dreamcast was released on October 22, 2000 in North America and later in Europe. The Dreamcast version was published by Raster Publications LLC and published by Sega. There were several features unique to the Dreamcast version of the game, such as control options. The game supported both the standard Dreamcast controller and the Dreamcast keyboard and mouse, providing a more PC-like experience for those who preferred it. Visuals. The Dreamcast version had slightly downgraded graphics compared to the PC version to accommodate the hardware limitations of the console. However, it still managed to deliver a visually impressive experience, especially for the time. Online multiplayer. The Dreamcast version of Quake 3 Arena supported online multiplayer via SegaNet, Sega's online gaming service. This allowed players to compete against one another at the same fast-paced action found in the PC version. Split-screen multiplayer. The Dreamcast version also offered split-screen multiplayer, allowing up to 4 players to compete on the same console. Exclusive content. The Dreamcast version of Quake 3 Arena included a few exclusive maps and character skins not found in the original PC release. While the Dreamcast version of Quake 3 Arena was well received by critics and fans, the console itself was not as successful as Sega had hoped. The Dreamcast was discontinued in 2001, and Sega transitioned from being a console manufacturer to a third-party game developer and publisher. Despite the short lifespan of the Dreamcast, the legacy of Quake 3 Arena on the platform remains an important part of gaming history. It showcased the potential for high-quality, fast-paced first-person shooters on consoles that helped pave the way for future console FPS games. Number 7. Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver. Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver is an action-adventure game developed by Crystal Dynamics and published by Eidos Interactive. It is the second installment in the Legacy of Kain series, following Blood Omen Legacy of Kain. Soul Reaver was initially released for the PlayStation in August of '99, followed by a release for the Sega Dreamcast later that year. Development of Soul Reaver began in 1997, several years before its release, with Crystal Dynamics aiming to create a more action-oriented experience compared to its predecessor. The game was directed by Amy Hennig, who played a vital role in shaping the story and world. The development team sought to create a dark, gothic atmosphere with a rich narrative and innovative gameplay mechanics, including the ability to shift between the material and spectral planes. Soul Reaver features a mix of puzzle solving, combat, and exploration in a 3D environment. The game is primarily played from the third-person perspective, with players controlling Raziel as he navigates the world, fights enemies, and solves puzzles. One of the game's defining features is the ability to shift between the material and spectral planes, which alters the environment and provides new ways to progress through the game. Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver received critical acclaim for its innovative gameplay, rich narrative, and atmospheric world design. The game's success led to further sequels, including Soul Reaver 2 in 2001, Blood Omen 2 in 2002, and Legacy of Kain Defiance in 2003, which continued the story of Kain and Raziel. The series has maintained a cult following over the years and is remembered as one of the most iconic and memorable franchises from the era. Number 6. Rez. Rez is a unique and innovative rail shooter developed by United Game Artists and released for the Dreamcast in 2001 along with the PlayStation 2. The idea for Rez was conceived when developer Mitsuguchi attended a party in Europe and was inspired by the blending of music, visuals, and audience interaction. He wanted to create a game that fused music, rhythm, and shooting gameplay into a single cohesive experience. Rez Rez is set in a futuristic computer network called Project K, which is on the verge of collapsing due to an overload of data. The player's objective is to hack into the system and reboot the central AI named Eden, who has become overwhelmed by the vast amount of information in its processing. The gameplay is centered around a unique combination of shooting and rhythm mechanics. Players control the avatar that moves around on a predetermined path through each level, and they must lock onto and shoot various enemies and objects while staying in sync with the game's soundtrack. Successful shooting actions add layers to the music, creating an interactive audio-visual experience. Upon its release, Rez was met with critical acclaim for its innovative gameplay, stunning visuals, and engrossing audio design. However, it did not achieve significant commercial success, partly due to the Dreamcast's limited lifespan and eventual discontinuation. The game has since become a cult classic and has been re-released on various platforms, including the Xbox 360, PlayStation 4, and PC, with updated graphics and support for virtual reality devices. Number 5. Shenmue. Shenmue is an action-adventure video game developed by Sega AM2 and published by Sega for the Dreamcast console. It was conceived and directed by Yu Suzuki, the creator of popular Sega franchises such as Virtua Fighter and Outrun. The game's story follows Ryu Hazuki, a young Japanese martial artist who embarks on a quest to avenge his father's murder. Set in a semi-realistic recreation of Japan in the 1980s, Ryu investigates the circumstances surrounding his father's death and the mysterious artifact known as the Dragon Mirror. Shenmue features a mix of gameplay elements including exploration, combat, and quick-time events. Players guide Ryu through an open-world environment, interacting with non-player characters and gathering clues that further the storyline. The game's combat system is influenced by the Virtua Fighter series, with Ryu learning and executing various martial arts techniques. Shenmue received critical acclaim upon its release, with praise for its graphics, storytelling, and innovative gameplay mechanics. However, the game's high development costs and limited commercial success of the Dreamcast console meant that Shenmue did not achieve strong sales figures. Despite its limited commercial success, Shenmue has gained a cult following and is considered a classic in video game history. A sequel, Shenmue 2, was released on the Dreamcast in 2001 in Japan and Europe, and later on the Xbox in North America. The story remained incomplete for nearly 2 decades until the release of Shenmue 3 in 2019, which was funded through a successful Kickstarter campaign. The influence of Shenmue can be seen in many subsequent open-world games, as its innovative gameplay mechanics and attention to detail laid the groundwork for future titles in the genre. Number 4. Power Stone 2. Power Stone 2 is a 3D arena fighting game developed by Capcom and released for the Sega Dreamcast console in 2000. The game is a sequel to the original Power Stone, which was released in 1999. Known for its unique and colorful characters, fast-paced gameplay, and emphasis on interactive environments and item usage, Power Stone 2 became a fan favorite among Dreamcast owners. Following the success of the original Power Stone, Capcom decided to expand upon the formula for the sequel. Power Stone 2 was developed by the same team that worked on the first game. The development process focused on improving the game mechanics and adding new features. New features included expanded character rosters. The sequel boasted a total of 12 playable characters, including new additions and returning favorites from the original game. 4-player multiplayer. Unlike the first game, which only supported 2 players, Power Stone 2 allowed for up to 4 players to battle simultaneously. Dynamic stages. The game featured interactive stages that would change and evolve as the match progressed, adding an element of unpredictability and excitement. Items and weapons. Power Stone 2 expanded the variety of usable items and weapons that players could find and use during battles, further enhancing enhancing the strategic aspect of the game, and a new fusion system that allowed players to combine certain items to create powerful new weapons and items, adding yet another layer of depth to the gameplay. Power Stone 2 received glowing reviews from critics and players alike. The game was praised for its fast-paced gameplay, colorful graphics, and engaging multiplayer experience. Critics also lauded the improvements made over the original game, as well as the expanded character roster and dynamic stages. Although sadly there were no new entries in the Power Stone series since Power Stone 2, the game has maintained a dedicated fan base. In 2006, both Power Stone and Power Stone 2 were re-released as part of the Power Stone collection for the PlayStation Portable, allowing a new generation of gamers to experience these classic titles. Fans continue to hope for a new installment or remaster the series on a modern platform. Number 3. Sonic Adventure. Sonic Adventure is a platform game developed by Sonic Team and published by Sega. It was released for the Sega Dreamcast, Sega's 6th generation console, in 1998 in Japan and 99 in North America and Europe. The game marked a significant departure from the traditional 2D side-scrolling gameplay of previous Sonic the Hedgehog games, including 3D graphics and a more open-world environment. Development of Sonic Adventure began in 1997 when Sonic Team started working on a new Sonic game for the Dreamcast. Sonic Team's Yuji Naka, the original creator of Sonic the Hedgehog, led the development, with Takashi Iizuka served as the game's director. The team wanted to create a fully 3D Sonic game that took advantage of the Dreamcast's powerful hardware, which allowed for more advanced graphics and gameplay mechanics. Sonic Adventure features 6 playable characters: Sonic the Hedgehog, Tails, Knuckles, Amy Rose, Big the Cat, and E102 Gamma. Each character had their own unique abilities and storyline that intertwines with the others. The game's main plot revolves around the Dr. Eggman's evil plans to collect the Chaos Emeralds and use them to power up a creature known as Chaos, which he intends to use to conquer the world. The game's setting, Adventure Fields, was a departure from the more linear level design of previous Sonic games. Players could explore these hub worlds, interacting with non-playable characters and completing various tasks to progress through the game. The action stages, where most of the platforming and gameplay takes place, were more similar to the traditional Sonic levels, but with a 3D twist. Sonic Adventure received generally positive reviews upon its release, with praise directed at its visuals, audio, and character variety, but it also faced some criticism for its camera system and certain character-specific stages. The game was a commercial success, becoming one of the best-selling titles on the Dreamcast and solidifying Sonic's presence in the 3D gaming era. Sonic Adventure's success paved the way for a sequel, Sonic Adventure 2, which was released in 2001 for the Dreamcast and later ported to other consoles. Sonic Adventure 2 continued the 3D gameplay style introduced in the first game and has since become a fan favorite in the Sonic the Hedgehog series. Number 2. Skies of Arcadia. Known as Eternal Arcadia in Japan, Skies of Arcadia is a role-playing game developed by Overworks, a subsidiary of Sega. It was initially released for the Sega Dreamcast in 2000. The game is set in a world where people live on floating islands scattered across the skies, and players assume the role of Vice, a young air pirate, and his friends as they embark on a quest to stop an evil empire from conquering the world. Skies of Arcadia was developed as an exclusive RPG title for the Dreamcast, which was Sega's last home console before transitioning to third-party software publishing. The game was well received by both critics and players for its unique setting, engaging gameplay, and memorable characters. The game's story revolves around the exploration of floating islands and uncharted skies in a steampunk-inspired world. Players control Vice and his crew aboard their airship, the Albatross, engaging in turn-based battle against various enemies and other airships. The game also features a morale system that affects the performance of the characters in combat, and players can recruit members to enhance their abilities. In 2002, an enhanced version of the game titled Skies of Arcadia Legends was released for the Nintendo GameCube. This version included additional content such as new side quests, characters, and discoveries, as well as improved graphics and a slightly reduced random encounter rate. The GameCube version also addressed some of the criticisms directed at the original release, such as the high frequency of random battles and the long loading times. Although Skies of Arcadia did not achieve massive commercial success, it has maintained a dedicated fan base over the years, is considered a cult classic, and is a personal favorite of the team here at Top 10 Retro Gaming. Number 1. Soul Calibur. Soul Calibur for the Sega Dreamcast is a 3D fighting game developed by Project Soul, a division of Namco. Soul Calibur is the second installment in the Soul series, following Soul Edge. Soul Calibur was originally released in the arcades in July 1988, running on the Namco System 12 hardware. The game was then ported to the Sega Dreamcast as a launch title in Japan in November of 1998. The North American and European releases followed in September and October of 1999. The game was both a critical and commercial success and is often considered one of the best fighting games of all time, as one of the best games for the Dreamcast, and we clearly agree. The port to the Dreamcast was praised for its stunning graphics, smooth gameplay, and impressive content, and it was a significant improvement over the arcade version in terms of visual quality and added features. Soul Calibur was also one of the first games to use Dreamcast's Visual Memory Unit, or VMU, for saving game data and unlocking additional content. Soul Calibur features a roster of 19 characters, including unlockable ones, each with their own unique weapons and fighting style. The game's story revolves around a legendary sword called Soul Edge, which is sought by warriors from different lands and different time periods. The main objective of the game is to either obtain or destroy the cursed weapon. The Dreamcast version of Soul Calibur introduced several new modes, including Mission Battle, a mode in which players compete various missions and challenges to unlock new content and improve their characters' abilities. It also included Team Battle, which allows players to form teams of characters and compete against one another. Soul Calibur's success on the Dreamcast led to numerous sequels and spin-offs across multiple platforms. The most recent mainline entry in the series is Soul Calibur 6, which was released in 2018 for PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and PC. Well, there you have it. Those are our top 10 Sega Dreamcast games of all time. Where do you agree? Where do you disagree? Let us know what you want to see us rank next in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe.